Why Cam Heyward may really sit out regular season games. And Jalen Ramsey was born to be a Steeler. Big Deke news. Man, I may be having a change of heart on this Cam Heyward situation. Not fully, but pretty damn close. Because I still think it's Cam. He's a Steeler for life. One helmet guy. We know Cam. It's Cam. If he wants a little bit of a pay bump, coming off that All-Pro season, he's going to probably be a Hall of Famer. I think we can do it. We can definitely afford it. Let's give him a few extra million, if that's what he wants. Let's just meet in the middle here. Let's figure it out. At the same time, I mean, it is a business. Cam did sign a contract last year. And in life, you're not always going to be able to get exactly what you want. Here's Adam Schefter giving an update on where both Cam and the Steelers are at this point. And it doesn't seem close.
Well, this is interesting because it went all through camp where essentially he's having a hold-in that doesn't wind up getting reported because he's out on the practice field running around, staying in shape, but not practicing in team drills, and he still hasn't practiced in team drills. He wants to cash in now because he knows, frankly, that there aren't many years left in his career. And I think you add in this. Pittsburgh, this offseason, has gone out of its way to take care of any number of players from outside and inside the organization. DK Metcalf, Jalen Ramsey, Jonnu Smith, Darius Slay, and, of course, TJ Watt. So all these players that have had nothing to do with Pittsburgh's prior success got paid. TJ Watt got paid. And here's a player who feels like he's meant an awful lot to this team who hasn't gotten paid. And the two sides have not bridged any of their differences. And it doesn't seem like the Steelers want to pay him right now.
So if both sides really aren't that close right now, Cam, he's holding in, saying, this is what I want to be valued. And the Steelers don't really want to acquiesce. Could we be getting close to week one and saying to ourselves, Cam may not play? It's not like completely out of the realm of possibility. Chris Jones with the Chiefs a couple years ago sat out week one, and then ultimately before week two they got a deal taken care of. And Ray Fittipaldo of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette actually used the Chris Jones example to explain why Cam really could sit out some regular season games with how his contract is situated this offseason.
You know, Chris Jones held out not last year, but the year before in 2023. Chris Jones is now the highest paid interior defensive lineman in the NFL. He held out all of minicamp, training camp, and the first regular season game. And they came to terms on a new deal. But he never recouped that game check that he missed. Now, I will say the big difference between Cam and Chris Jones in this situation is Cam's already been paid 90% of his salary for this year in the form of that roster bonus. So, you know, he's making $1.3 million in salary this year. Have he and his agents calculated that, yeah, we'll be willing to miss the Jets game? Who cares? It's $85,000 or whatever that is prorated. They could have calculated that in their mind and say, okay, we are willing to do that. So that's another aspect of this that other holdouts probably don't jive that way just because most people have more money in terms of salary. So
now to me that's kind of not good business. That's not how you do business. Hey, I'll take the $13 million that you gave me for being on the roster in expectation of me playing this year, and I'm just going to sit out the whole season and take fines that add up to the $1 million base salary. So I'm still getting like $12 million from you for not doing anything. I don't think that's how it should be done. So like that right there is partly why I'm starting to get a new perspective on this, but also a couple other things. My buddy was texting me the other day. He's like, what the hell's going on with Cam? What's Cam doing? Do we not forget what Big Ben did in his last season? He offered to take a pay cut. He willingly took a pay cut. $5 million pay cut, got his salary from $19 to $14 million, which opened up, I think it was like double digits in cap space. And Ben said, yeah, I'm doing this to help out the team. I want to play football this year, and I want to have our team be the best it possibly can be. So there's that. I mean, if Big Ben's doing that, and we brought up examples last couple shows ago about Jamar Chase. He was up for his extension last year, still played because he was out there for Joe Burrow and his teammates. Aaron Rodgers is only playing this year on $13 million. That's exactly what Cam's getting paid. So who really wants to be the Steeler more? Who's really more concerned about money versus just playing football and being a Steeler? You tell me.
Either you want to be a Pittsburgh Steeler or you don't. That's simple. That's the pitch. Like, if you want me to recruit, that's the recruiting pitch.
I mean, it's just, what do you want? Do you want the money, or do you just want to focus on playing football and being a Steeler? I think Cam's trying to have his cake and eat it too, but given the context of his situation, you did sign the contract last year. Because I'm seeing some other people bring up some other stuff and what could have been done with last year's contract, and one of them is he could have just played out that final year, bet on himself, hit the open market. But another one is, if you really wanted more money for making an all-pro in 2024, you could have just put that in the contract. If I make an all-pro, I get a pay bump of $5 or $6 million for next year on my roster bonus, whatever it is, guarantee it. Like, why wasn't that part of the conversation?
If I'm Omar Khan, I said I did a great deal for the team. Where I think it's an abject failure is Cam Heyward and his team. If they saw that contract, and the reason why I say this, if he walked out the doors and said, if I make all pro, I'm going to see you next year. No. You're at the bargaining table now. Put that in there now. So if you're the rep, you should know that the salary cap's going to spike a greater amount than years past. You know people are going to get signed. You know who's going to be free agents, and they're going to sign deals. So make sure that next year's deal, and you could even put it in an incentive.
And like I said, sometimes you just can't get everything you want. If you wanted to take on more risk and wanted to bet on yourself and try to get more money for this season, then you could have went different routes when negotiating that contract last year. And I don't think Omar really wants to set a precedent of, after giving someone a new deal and then just after one season of good play, all of a sudden we rip up the contract and do a whole new thing. Steelers got to be saying to themselves, hey, we took a risk on you last year coming off of your worst season in 2023. You were injured. You're in your mid-30s. We took a risk by giving you some extra money there, although I still think, in Cam's defense, it was still a team-friendly deal for everything that Cam has done up to that point. But anyway, Steelers are thinking, we're taking a risk too, because what if you play bad or you get injured? Like, we're still paying you that money. We still have a certain amount of guarantees of millions of dollars that we're giving you. It's not like you're giving that back. It just so happens with how last season played out, the Steelers got great value from Cam's play. And that happens, right? And then it's up to the player and their agent and how they handle that situation. Steph Curry with the Warriors, he signed a cheap-ass deal early in his career to secure his future because he was dealing with some ankle stuff. Good player, but was not on the court that often. So he's like, you know what? Let me sign this multi-year deal, 4 or 5 year deal. I think it was for only like 11 or 12 million bucks per year. And then during that contract goes on to win 2 MVPs and becomes the Steph Curry that we know now. So Warriors got great value. And how did Curry handle that situation? He played out the contract, and you didn't hear peep about him wanting a new deal until the end of it. So it goes back to the question with Cam. It's just like, what do you want? What's your priority? Is it the money, or is it to just play on the Pittsburgh Steelers? As I said, I think he's trying to navigate both worlds there. But right now it feels like it's more about the money. That because of his good play last year, it was more about getting that bump in pay for this offseason, as opposed to just, I was out there for my team, helping us win, trying to win a Super Bowl. That's what my good play is mainly for. You're trying to do both. You don't want to be getting ripped off with your contracts, though, if you're playing at a high level and being underpaid. I get it. We get all that stuff. But you also have to understand time and place, and the timing with this one feels a little bit weird. I get where Cam's coming from, but I think this could have just been handled better. Going back to last offseason with the extension he signed, and then even this offseason, because maybe you just got to bite the bullet. You went to the Steelers, you're trying to get the new money, all that stuff. We're a month away from the season. Maybe you just say, you know what, is it worth it at this point? Or is it time to just take a back seat and say, you know, we couldn't get the business side of this to my liking exactly, but I'm still here. I'm going to play out my contract. I signed it, and we'll move forward. That's exactly what Cam, his agent, the Steelers are trying to figure out right now, and we'll see if something gets done. But it's just not the best look. It's really not. It's not the best look right now. Unfortunate, because with Boswell, at least you haven't even heard from Boswell. Haven't heard, like, there's a report out there, but we haven't heard from Boswell saying that he's maybe willing to sit out. This is what I want. This is what's going on. He's just chill. For all we know, we're going to see Boswell out there week 1. Yeah, he wants a new deal, but if ultimately it doesn't get done, we're still going to see Boswell. And Boswell, you could even argue, is a little bit different because he signed his contract years ago as opposed to just last year. So different situations. Bosmore in his prime, obviously with his position and stuff, he's not going anywhere. His play should not be taking a dip at any point here soon. So maybe it would have been better for Cam just to not even do the press conference, not even do that media session, because now it's out there that he might sit out games. You could tell his frustration, all that stuff. We don't know what's going on with Boss. We just know he's trying to get an uptick in his money. But ultimately, if things don't jive there between him and the Steelers, he'll still be out there. He'll be out there first team. He'll be a good soldier. But with Cam, it's up in the air. It's fair to question where his priorities are. And for him, you know, everyone's an individual. Everyone's got to do what's best for them. For him, I'm not saying one way is right or wrong, but you can't have it both ways and think that the fans should just be so thrilled that you're going about the contract and the whole situation the way that you are. Last thing I want to talk about, Jalen Ramsey did an interview with Ryan Clark and The Pivot a couple days ago, and I just wanted to go over some of the stuff he said, some of the highlights, because he hit the nail on the head with a lot of things. It seems like he has really embraced what it means to be a Pittsburgh Steeler and is really excited about this 2025 season, going so far to say that this 2025 Steelers team reminds him a little bit of those 2021 Rams, that team that he was on when they won the Super Bowl.
I'm just about to take away like his arm talent and his precision, his accuracy, and the no-look passes and all that. Forget about all that for the second. Can't forget about it, but for the second, forget about it. The confidence that he brings, that whole offense, like everybody around him wants to be great, and it's kind of like nobody wants to let him down. Yeah. The best teams that I've been on, that's been like how the whole team is. When I was in LA, I didn't want to let AD down. Mm-hmm. I did not want to let Aaron Donald down. Wow. Other guys on the team felt the same way. Right. I didn't want to let the secondary down. They was looking at me to lock up number 1 receivers. I didn't want to let them down. You know, the other defensive linemen didn't want to let AD down. The other edge rushers didn't want to let Vaughn down. Mm. You know what I'm saying? Then on the offensive side, our receivers did not want to let Matthew down. They wanted to prove that he could be that piece. Right.
I mean, I kind of get what he's saying here. It's not the perfect apples-to-apples comparison, but the team archetypes kind of similar. Both have Hall of Fame quarterback with something to prove. Stafford at the time, like, we didn't know if he was necessarily a Hall of Fame quarterback just yet, but the talent was there. We needed to see if he could really be that with a team with legit surroundings. And then you saw how things took place. His first year with the Rams, had a historic playoff run, excellent in the Super Bowl, clutch as hell, and now we're talking about him in Hall of Fame conversations. Aaron Rodgers, already a Hall of Famer, but something to prove, right? People are thinking he's washed. People are thinking he doesn't have it anymore. because of the bad Jets stint. Now he's like, all right, give me a team. Give me a decent organization, and let me show you what I could do. And then Rams had that number one receiver, good chemistry with the quarterback. Hopefully we got that here with DK Metcalf. Rams had it with Cooper Kupp. Defense, ton of big names. Rams, Aaron Donald, Depoy caliber, our Depoy caliber guys, TJ Watt. They also had Von Miller they got at the trade deadline. Jalen Ramsey is on both teams. A little bit older with this Steelers team, obviously. Rams also had Leonard Floyd, but Steelers got Patrick Queen, Darius Slay, Cam Heyward, hopefully Deshaun Elliott. If anything, I mean, I'm listing off more big names on this Steelers team than that Rams team. On paper, I mean, I like this Steelers squad. If we're going matchup for matchup, if you're playing Madden, I'm taking 2025 Steelers all day, every day. Now, Rams a little bit more front-loaded on offense. They traded for Odell Beckham middle of the season. They also had a more prime Robert Woods. But Robert Woods got hurt, like, middle of the season, didn't he? I don't think he played out the latter half of that season and even into the playoffs. And we got a Jonnu Smith. Yeah, a question mark or two maybe at receiver with Calvin Austin hurt, Roman Wilson. But, man, I mean, I see what he's saying if you're just talking about talent and the names on the roster. But he's saying the thing that sets teams like the 2021 Rams apart from others is that accountability. It's not only just the talent. It's not only quarterback play, pieces in place, but no one wants to let each other down. There's leadership. There's accountability. It's just all about ball and trying to win as a team. No egos. So he's saying after training camp, he spent a whole training camp here. He's seeing some of those similarities in this squad. Offense doesn't want to let Rodgers down. Defense doesn't want to let each other down. Ramsey doesn't want to let TJ down. TJ doesn't want to let Ramsey down. It's that type of vibe. And hopefully that's how it plays out in the regular season, because I'm with him. Like, that is something that does separate teams apart. It's just you're there for each other. You guys are like brothers, right? You want to look out for your teammate. And that's obviously, we go back to those 2000s teams into the early 2010s. That's what those squads were like with Big Ben, Casey Hampton, Hines Ward, Joey Porter, James Harrison, Ryan Clark. That's what those squads were like. It felt like they were a unit. They were together. It wasn't about me. It was about the team. So hopefully these new acquisitions, all these new additions for this 2025 Steelers pays off to that degree, where the shakeup was needed to the extent where it's like we got new voices, we got new faces, new vibes here, where it's just like it ends up clicking, where everyone's for each other, everyone's got their own situation, everyone's got their own story. But for this time and place, for the here and now, it just all works out, and we're off to the races. Couple other things he said. I missed this. I definitely missed on this take whenever Jalen Ramsey first arrived to Latrobe. Remember, he did his introductory interview, and they were talking about his versatility, what position he's set to play. And I gathered from his body language and how he was answering questions that he just still wants to be a cornerback. He still wants to be CB1. He still wants to be that guy on the outside. But he'll do whatever the Steelers are asked. But he would prefer to be cornerback. It seems like it was actually the opposite when arriving to Pittsburgh.
I'm going to say Charles off the jump. Like, probably favorite player ever, favorite DB for sure. My career to look more like that than anybody else. If I had to, like, pick one person that I want my career to look like, it's always been him. Whether that is 12 years, 15, 18, whatever, right? I've always seen my career looking like that. Obviously, on my past teams, I've been needed to more than likely at times be specifically a corner and have certain matchups and be on the outside, because that's a valuable position for sure. But I've always wanted to be able to move around, and that was even going back to talking about the acquisition, that was even like a big thing for me. Was like, I remember talking to Mike and Omar, and I'm like, yo, football wise, I think that was one of the first questions I asked. Like, yo, how do you envision me fitting in with this defense? How do you envision me playing with this defense? Because obviously you have Slay, who I have a ton of respect for. Me and Slay been friends for a while. Then you got Joey Porter Jr. And it's like, I know for a fact what both of those guys can do on the outside. And I know what I can do versatility-wise in the nickel, at safety, if you ask me to, outside matchups, whatever. And the conversations we had really had me excited for the possibilities that we can see on the field this year, even if it's playing position that I haven't played yet in the league. But, in college, I played it all. I played safety in first year, nickel, corner. So I'm excited to be able to potentially do a number of things this year.
And honestly, I think this is the smart approach to take, because starting to move to safety more is going to just prolong your career. And if Charles Woodson is the model, that's what he eventually started to do in his 30s and had that whole second stint, that whole second prime where he was just this versatile chess piece on defense. Then ultimately toward the last 2 or 3 years, he was just strictly a safety. So if Ramsey is really trying to play into his late 30s, getting that experience of safety, getting that experience of just moving around and being a chess piece is going to do wonders for him. But I also think it's going to do wonders for the Steelers just for how this roster is constructed too for 2025. We have 2 other cornerbacks, so we can't afford to move Jalen Ramsey from the outside cornerback position to the slot, to safety. Just move them all over the place and get these great matchups. But I think he's also saying, don't get it twisted. I'm still that guy. I'm still the number 1 corner. I'm just also going to be the number 1 safety. I'm going to be the number 1 slot corner too.
Who going first in one-on-ones?
Lil Peasy, Slay, yourself. One-on-one start.
They know who going first. Yeah. And Slay so chill, right? Slay my dog. Me and Slay have a great relationship. Slay already knew what type of time, and I was on Slay chill. Slay like, man, y'all got it. You know what I'm saying? Slay cool.
Yeah.
With Joe, he like, nah, Jay, I need that. I'm like, after me though. You know what I mean? Like, you gonna get it. You gonna get that action.
Yeah.
After me, let me do my thing, and then you gonna get your action in. And all 3 of us, we sat with Mike T, even at the beginning of camp, and we had good conversations, and he even kind of butted in and told Joe too, like, hey, Jay gonna be the guy right now.
Mm-hmm.
And we're gonna get you yours too, but Jay gonna be the one popping it off. We're gonna give the people what they want. Jay gonna be the one.
Yeah.
But I love it, to be honest.
But that's it for today's show. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts on the topics discussed down in the comments. Have a great, safe rest of your Thursday. Stay chilling. Peace.